All right, welcome everyone to the 2022 PI Conference. As I mentioned, we'll get started in just a moment, but I want to point out that Spanish interpretation is available for this session, and you can access the Spanish language line by clicking the world icon on your Zoom toolbar. Now, my name is Alyssa Creamer, and I am the Director of Community Services at IDF, and I will be your moderator for this educational panel. This afternoon, we have a panel of 3 adults with PI who will share more about how they explain their diagnosis to others and live life to the fullest. I have some questions pre-planned for our panelists, but if you have any additional questions, please submit those via the chat feature on Zoom, and we will try to get to as many as we can in the time that we have allowed. So today I am thrilled to welcome Peter Atherton, Carissa Marson, and Jerry Shorten as our panelists. They will each introduce themselves and share some information about themselves with you all, and then we will jump into some Q&A. So Carissa, why don't we just start with you? Can you introduce yourself, just share your name, your age if you feel comfortable, where you live, and just what your diagnosis is, how long you've been diagnosed, and kind of what you do today.
Sure. So as she said, my name is Carissa Marson. I am 34 years old and I live in Houston, Texas, actually just right outside of Houston, Texas in Cypress. And I am a mom and wife, and I have 2 little girls. My oldest is 10 and my youngest is 7. My diagnosis is common variable immunodeficiency. I was diagnosed when I was 15 months old, originally with a IgA deficiency, and later that progressed to CVID. And with that, have several other different underlying conditions, several autoimmune disorders. And I work with a foreign exchange organization. I'm the director of development and project management with that organization. I've been there for 11 years. And like she said, I try to live life to the fullest. So definitely don't let any of my illness bring me down and just keep going. All about me.
Thank you, Carissa. Pete, let's go to you.
Hi, my name is Pete Atherton. I'm a 70-year-old retired tech executive living north of Denver, who is alive, healthy, and very active today thanks to regular treatments of plasma-derived medicines. But I must say it wasn't always that way. 37 years ago, I thought I was living the dream. I was married to my beautiful wife. We had 2 healthy, very young boys. I had a PhD with publications still referenced in textbooks today. And I was working for a hot Silicon Valley startup. But then I started getting sick. And over the next 10 years, bouts of sinus and ear infections got worse and worse. And my health was spiraling downward into multiple episodes of pneumonia. I went to work quite frequently with pneumonia, and that was just my life. You know, I look back and I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. I wrestled and played rugby at Penn State. I was pretty fit. How the heck could I be so sick? As time went by, I kept getting sicker and sicker and became more and more concerned. What would happen to my family, my job, if my health continued to decline? After many medical tests over the years, my doctor spotted an anomaly in my blood from an annual physical. He sent me to a specialist who found that my levels of immunoglobulin, or IgG, were very low. My IgA, IgM were almost non-existent. And they diagnosed me with common variable immune deficiency. And of course, you all know, since IgG is critical to protecting the body from germs and viruses, they put me on a regimen of plasma-derived medicine that was delivered intravenously to bolster my IgG levels. Simply put, those treatments saved my life and have allowed me to get back to living a really good life. I am so very thankful to the scientists who discovered and developed the medicines, to the medical companies who make and deliver the medicines, to the doctors and nurses who prescribe and administer the medicines, and to the people who donate their plasma to make it all possible. Thanks to these infusions I've had over the past 26 years, I've been able to take on more challenging jobs, to raise my boys, to coach their sports teams, see them graduate, to enjoy my granddaughters, to be a better husband to my wonderful wife, and help my parents as they got older. Heck, I even got to run in 2 winning relay teams at National Corporate Relays. I've been also very fortunate to have had my infusions at home the whole time. And I've especially been fortunate in recent years that my wife is also my nurse, and has been for the last 3 that I get every 3 weeks. In retirement, I've been able to stay active, playing a lot of pickleball, biking with the neighborhood group, playing bridge, advising startup companies, volunteering as a court-appointed special advocate for neglected and abused children, and as a member of the Board of Trustees of IDF. One of my favorite volunteers activities is to go to plasma donor facilities and talk to donors. What I found is most plasma donors are really not aware of where their plasma goes and what it does for people like us. And I especially enjoy watching them light up with big smiles when I tell them what they did saved my life and the lives of so many others. Please know I am so very thankful to be here with you today, to be healthy, alive, and to share my story with you.
Thank you, Pete. All right, Jerry, can you follow that up?
No, good luck, Jerry. Sounds good.
Wow, Pete, that was amazing intro. But my name is Jerry Shorten. I'm 36 years old. I just had a birthday, just passed less than a month ago. I live in Houston, Texas. I'm not a student anymore, obviously. I work for a custom builder in Texas. So we build custom homes throughout Texas. And also too, I have my own transportation business and real estate business on the side too as well. I was diagnosed at 2 weeks old with a condition that's called SCIDS. And the way that the reason why they tested me so young and I had a bone marrow transplant at 2 weeks old is because I had 2 older brothers who had SCIDS too as well. And so the doctors knew they wanted to test me to make sure that I didn't have SCIDS, and I did. And my sister was my donor, which she is 3 years older than me. Kind of treatment, I don't receive any kind of infusions at home like Carissa and Pete, but also I receive like an injection. Basically, I do once a month. It's called Pegasus. And before that, I receive interferon. And so the Pegasus has the same medicine that the interferon has, but it just works a little bit better with my body.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Carissa. And thank you, Pete. We're really excited to have you here today. I think all 3 of you have different stories that I think will provide lots of great information and hope for those who are tuning in. So really the title of this session is Make Yourself Heard, and it's about sharing your diagnosis, maybe sharing your story with others who maybe have never heard of PI or know what it is or know all of the trials and tribulations that many people go through, not only to get a diagnosis, but to go through treatment or to be sick for such a long period of time. So really my first question for all 3 of you, and we can go around and we'll start with Carissa, is who do you decide to tell about your condition? Are there certain people that you openly share it with, or are there others that you decide not to share it with, and why?
So it's not something that I just walk around and discuss. When I'm introducing myself to someone, I'm introducing them to me as a person, and my illness doesn't define me. If it comes up, if there's a reason to bring it up, of course I will. But it's really to me, it's a very personal thing. And if I need to bring it up for some reason, then of course I will. But it's not. It's kind of like a something I hold close to me, like a family and close friend thing. But yeah, it's not something I have like really in the workplace or when I'm meeting new people, or that's just kind of openly right on my sleeve. So yeah, I definitely don't let it define me.
And that's great, Carissa. I think we hear from many in our community who say they don't want their PI to define them. So Jerry, I think I want to ask you, as someone who has been diagnosed since they were 2 weeks old, how do you really explain what your diagnosis is and who you decide to tell and who you decide not to tell, since it's been kind of a part of who you are for your entire existence?
Absolutely. I went through weird phases because I was diagnosed at a young age. I was more so embarrassed about the diagnosis because I was worried about what people was going to think about me. Growing up with diagnosis and always being sick and having to leave class, and kids are asking like, well, what's wrong with you? And not really giving them a direct answer because we was just kids. And so they didn't really understand, and nobody really understand. There's even some doctors that I talk to now that they're like, what is that? And then I've talked to some other doctors. I'm like, oh, wow, we never met a primary patient, or a patient with SCID. So we're amazed. We want to hear more about it. Mm-hmm. So I would say my childhood, I have received a lot of unwanted attention of being the sick kid. And I didn't like it. I was on Good Morning American. I was on Phil Donahue. I was on several TV shows. There's magazines that was put out about me, about, he has SCIDs. Sometimes people call me, you're like the junior bubble boy. I don't know what that means, but I was never in a bubble. But we have the same condition. And I was just more so like, didn't want to talk about it. And then when I got to my late teens, I realized when I went to my first PI conference, because my mom used to force me to join these activities, and I was so against it. But my mom, at being 36 years old now, I know that she was doing it for my benefits, and I had a story to share with other young adults and even older adults who's been diagnosed at a later age, and I've seen the importance of my story is very important. All our stories are very important that's on this panel. And I accepted the challenge. And now this is why I do what I do now. And I speak on conferences like this, and I do share my story. But at the same time, when you meet me in person, I'm not going to go to you and say, hey, I'm Jerry Short and I have SCIDs. No, it just comes up in a conversation of like, if we're talking and we're vibing together, and so happen that we just get on a conversation about medical or what you've been through, then I will release that information. Same thing with my job too, as well. I never told my job at first that I had a condition. I never told any job because I thought it would hurt me from getting the job. I wanted them to get to know me and see who I was as a person outside of Jerry, the sick kid, or Jerry, whatever they think. I want them to understand me. And then as it comes up, then I would tell them about my condition. Mm-hmm.
Jerry, I like that. And you're so right. We are much more important than just what our diagnosis is. And I think you are a good example of that, of having grown up as someone with a PI. And like you said, you had been on the news and you'd been interviewed plenty, and people almost knew about you before you could tell them about you. So it sounds like you and Carissa now can kind of pick and choose like what you share and what you divulge.
Absolutely. Because a lot of people don't care even too. So I'm not going to go off and just share that. And they're like, why are you telling me that? I don't understand what you're saying, because you're talking a whole nother language right now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then there's some people that's very intrigued about it too, as well. They're like, oh, tell me more. And I was like, well, we could sit down and talk for hours about it. Yeah. It's so much information. So I try to get an elevator pitch. Yeah, and if they want more, then I give them more. if we have time.
Yeah, that's key. Pete, I'm curious about you knowing that you were diagnosed kind of later and you had lived, like you said, a very full life. You were married, you played all these sports, were very active, and then you got diagnosed. How do you share your diagnosis, or how did you start to share it with those in your circle, in your life after the fact?
Well, you brought back memories. I don't know why. One memory that is coming back is driving to the doctor's office to get my first infusion. And it was cold winter day. I had no idea what this stuff was. I knew nobody who had this. I knew nothing about it other than what little they told me. Maybe I should have asked more too. But it felt like someone in a cocoon. I didn't know anybody else who had it. I didn't know anything. And as it evolved, as I got used to the infusions, I'd say before retirement, I kept my condition very private, telling only my immediate family and my healthcare people, mostly because I wanted people to know me for who I was, not as that sick guy. And the sickness didn't show as much after starting to get infusions as it did before. Plus, I was concerned about insurance, given how much these medications cost, and another reason to keep it quiet. I didn't talk to my boss about it or their bosses, but I'm sure the insurance people saw stuff. But of course, by law, they can't talk about it. So that was good. After retirement, I started to peek outside, thank goodness for the internet, and found IG Living. And after reading several communications, mostly from younger people who were scared and concerned with what they had, I thought I could help by, raising my hand and said, I was scared too, and things are good now. And I just wanted them to know that life could be better with a good diagnosis and treatment. And from IG Living, I learned about IDF and went to my first conference in LA. So a little bit more circuitous, but I'm glad I'm here.
No, and thank you for that, Pete. And I think it's important to point out that all three of you mentioned disclosing or choosing not to disclose to your employers and to your workplace. And for all of you who are tuning in, I just want to put a little plug. At 5 p.m. today, there is a session on kind of workplace accommodations and how to navigate working with a PI, especially in this post-pandemic environment. So they can cover lots of the great information about what you do and do not have to disclose to an employer. So that was a short little aside, but all three of you touched on it, so it was perfect timing. I think our next question that I have for you all is kind of a doozy. So we might take up a lot of time with this one, but what is the most challenging part about living with your condition, with a various type of PI? Carissa, do you want to go first?
And I think it varies. There's getting sick for one. I mean, that just stinks. Right now, as this conversation started, I was texting my doctor because I have an ear infection and it hurts really bad. So the frequency of getting sick stinks. There's no other way to put it. Just for me personally, that is hard in itself, and learning how to manage the emotional aspect of that. They call us the zebras, and we're not normal, whatever that is. We have to accept the fact that we're going to get sick more often. We have to do these treatments. We have to poke ourselves. We have to deal with insurance. We have to deal with going to, more often than not, a set of multiple different specialists sometimes. Learning how to navigate an array of different things and different challenges, and sometimes with me, I have a daughter who she has the condition as well. And so I'm learning, she's 7 now, and she's starting to realize that it's a little difficult for her. She's understanding and trying to grasp those emotions that she's dealing with. She was sent home from school on Monday. She had a fever, and we found out she had strep throat, and she couldn't participate in some fun school things this week. And so emotionally for a 7-year-old, that's hard. And so teaching her ways to cope with the different things that she's going to have to handle her entire life, and also teaching her that sometimes you might not feel 100%, but you still have to push on, is a hard thing to learn at the age of 7. And at my age of 34, I still deal with that. I don't feel 100% every single day. In fact, I don't most days, but I still have to do all of my responsibilities as an adult and as a mom and as an employee. And that is the hardest thing that I think that, in my opinion, we have to deal with. So yeah, but it's also doable and manageable. And if you can kind of get the right mindset and stay positive about that, and thankful we do have resources and we do have the treatment. Without the treatment, we wouldn't be here. So I am thankful for that. And I am thankful that my daughter has me as a resource right here to whisper in her ear, hey, it's going to be okay. We can do this. And to teach her from a young age how to manage this. It's going to be fine. So yeah, for me, that's kind of the hardest thing.
And thank you, Carissa. What a powerful example to be able to set for your daughter, to be such a great role model for, you're not only the one going through kind of this condition and, like you said, all the challenges, but to be able to kind of support her and guide her through what will be her own challenges. I think I can't think of a better just role model or someone to be able to look up to than my own mom, to see how she does it as well. Doesn't discount how hard it is, but I applaud you.
Thank you.
Jerry, what is the most challenging aspect of living with SCID?
I think for me, it's the sometimes I break out. I think that's more the challenging, and then also listening to my body. One of a lady told me this a while back. She said your body will whisper, it will talk, and it will scream at you. And this past year, my body screamed at me. I had a seizure. I think I was overworking my body because my mind tells me, oh, you can do this, you can run this, you can go here, you can do this. And then deep down inside, I was tired. And I listened to my body after that. It put me out for a couple of months. And so now I'm learning that, hey, I am older. There's some things I might have to say no to. And I need to learn how to listen to my body, because your body will talk to you. And then just accepting the simple fact that I do have SCID, so I can't do everything what everybody else does. So I think that's really the hard thing, because my mind is working just fine. If I could do more things, I would, but I have to learn how to listen to myself and understand yourself.
And Jerry, I think that's such a good reminder, just to listen to yourself. It's true. We had a session earlier today about battling fatigue with PI, and it is so true. You can have any type of PI and just feel downright exhausted all the time. And whether that's just the condition itself or a side effect of the medication that you're on that is trying to help keep you healthy, it's just important to remember that it's okay to sit down, it's okay to rest, and it's okay to listen to yourself, because your body will make you listen whether you want it to or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Pete, do you have any experience kind of with this, this kind of thought process of, listening to your body, or are there other challenging aspects of living with
Well, it's funny.
COPD?
I didn't realize I did, but I do. But to me, it's just normal life after 26 years. Whenever we travel, I carry antibiotics. I carry antibiotic salve in case I cut myself. That's just part of life right now. I can't travel more than 3 or 4 weeks at a time because of my infusions. Although I may have to learn how to do that. I'd say in the beginning, it was interesting. That was startup of the infusion. Again, I knew nobody else who had that. I didn't know how many people had it, if any. It was just all unknown. And I remember going to that. I told you, sorry, I was going to the doctor's office in winter. They kept me there for a half hour on the way home. I started shaking like a leaf. I mean, I shook so bad I had to get off the road a couple of times. Went home, I spiked a fever like 104. Said, boy, this is going to be fun. And then as the nurse started coming to the home, the same thing happened. And I still remember her telling me, well, this is going to be okay. You're fine. And then on the phone, I could hear her whisper, this is a bad one. What am I going to do? And all it was going from an 1.5 hour infusion to 6 hours, slowing the whole thing down. And I've heard that story so many times. But really, I just consider myself quite lucky because all this is now normal to me. A 6 hour infusion every 3 weeks. It's part of life. And I actually feel extremely fortunate because I remember back to before infusions how sick I was. So I guess my view is I'm one of the lucky ones, really.
Thanks, Pete, for taking us on that nice clip towards the positive, because that's my next question for all of you. Let's not focus about the challenges. Let's not think about maybe the negative aspects of our condition or how hard it is to share. What are some of the positives of living with a PI that you all have learned? Carissa?
Yeah,
And there may not be any. So go ahead.
There is for sure. Through IDF, I've gotten to meet so many amazing people. I love going to, Pete mentioned this in his introduction, getting to thank some of the plasma donors. If you haven't done that and you receive plasma donations, that is, I call it my my emotional therapy. It's a really neat way to kind of give yourself a little bit of a pick me up. So telling those signing up with one of the centers and going to meet some of the donors and just telling them thank you for what you're doing, meeting them, and seeing their reaction to getting to meet someone who actually receives the therapy is one of the neatest things you can ever experience if you've never done that. It helps the centers because those people, it's been proven that they come back again, time and time again, just getting to meet someone who it actually helps, that they're getting to make a difference for. And you leave feeling, I don't know, just, I don't know how to explain it, just better. Like you go in just feeling like, this kind of sucks. Like, why do I have to, why me? And then you leave like, okay, thank you, God, for giving me a resource to be able to be here. And look at all these people who are giving me away. I've done it several times and it feels better. Or just like signing up to be a peer support or a listening ear, to someone else who needs someone to listen to. But yeah, there's definitely positives for sure.
Thanks, Carissa. Jerry, what about you? What are some of the positive aspects of living with and growing up with SCID?
There's definitely, believe it or not, there's definitely positive to it. It's just how you look at life. You know, we're all born with different conditions. Even if you don't have a PI condition, you have some type of other battle or something that you're facing in life. And I realized that we're all different in our own way. We're all unique in our own way. And to piggyback off of what Carissa said, she said it perfectly. When I get my emotional high is whenever I get to meet other people who have the same condition or, you know, similar conditions as me, to know that we have a resource that we can go to. And I'm a connector. I love people. So this whole COVID thing with everybody being at home, I don't like it. I love to be around people. I love to hug people. I love to entertain. I love company, and I enjoy that. And I enjoy it even more whenever I can talk to somebody else and they understand the same language. And I think that's really big. And again, God doesn't make any mistakes. I feel like God put us all in situations for us to be able to handle these situations. I don't think that he would have put me in this situation knowing that I wouldn't be able to handle it. And I think that I have my days where I do break down or you know, I'm feeling like a bad day, but that's normal. Even if I didn't have this condition, it would be something else that would probably put you down. So definitely, there are definitely some positive into it once you accept it, and then once you get to know who you are as a person and constantly growing every day of who you are. And that's with the PI and the resources with the doctors and everything else, it really have made me grow up as a man very fast of knowing who Jerry Shorten is.
Thank you, Jerry. And I do have a question from the audience that I just want to touch on right here while we're kind of thinking of it. Both Carissa and Jerry brought up some really great resources offered through IDF. That is peer support. So whether you want to be a peer support volunteer or you want to receive peer support, you can do so. We also have Get Connected groups, which are an awesome opportunity to connect with others with all types of PI. They're led by volunteers all over the US. And it's just a great way to connect with others and share experiences and hear how others either in your neighborhood or maybe with the same diagnosis as you, how they navigate those just the challenges and the positive aspects of living with PI. So I just wanted to touch on those since thankfully Carissa and Jerry both happened to mention them. So thank you both. Pete, do you have any positive aspects of living with a PI that you'd like to share?
Well, I'm going to cheat and piggyback on Jerry and Carissa.
Where the piggyback works from you to me to Carissa.
That's right. It was actually a recent board meeting, and I'm one of the guys who's been on the board for a long time. I've only been on for about a year. Brought up the notion, I can't remember the context, but while there are many medical causes for illnesses, I mean, we have, over 400 of our own, but if you look out at NORD, you'll see a whole lot more rare diseases, and there's so much out there. And as you mentioned, Jared, there's other things in life besides medical issues that are also tough. And I have to say that, taking from what this man said, was while there are many medical causes or other causes for issues and illnesses and challenges, there are a lot of common attributes, like dealing with treatments, like dealing with pain, dealing with the relationship, dealing with limitations in your life, and a lot more. And I think my immune deficiency has made me more sensitive to those things. And in a way, that was a gift.
Thanks, Pete. All right, we do have some time for mixing in some questions for the audience. So because Jerry had mentioned COVID, I'm going to ask this question of all of you. Somebody is wondering, do you feel more fear about getting COVID knowing that you're immune deficient? Carissa, why don't we start with you, back in our little triangle here.
So I've had it 3 times now, and so I no longer fear it. At the very beginning, I did, for sure. I mean, I think the whole world feared it. For me, the first time I had it was the worst. And then this last time it was like a regular cold. I know everyone's different though. But this last time I had flu, I felt a lot worse than I did COVID, but I'm not going to say anything about it's different for everyone. So, but no, I don't, me personally, I don't really fear it anymore. I take all the precautions I need.
Jerry or Pete, do you have anything different to add to what Carissa said or similar?
I have something probably similar. I would say at first I did fear it because it was the unknown.
Mhm.
It's like, holy crap, what's going on with the world? But then I had to dial back and like just relax and like, okay, again, remember, God is not going to put anything in your life that you can't handle. And I don't know, this might sound bad, but if it's your time to go, it's your time to go. But it's at the same time, it's quite interesting to see the whole world living in the PI world now.
Yeah.
Because we all was been doing this. I've been doing this since I was 2 weeks old.
Mhm.
Washing my hands constantly, which you should do anyways. That's a whole nother Q&A conversation. And protecting yourself and taking care of yourself. You should be already doing it already in the first place. But now seeing the whole world like wearing masks and trying to be germ free, it was just quite interesting to see like, well, I've already been doing this.
Mhm.
I've been taking the steps, the 10 steps ahead of making sure that when my classmate is over there sneezing with their mouth open, that I'm like turning the other way, or I'm like washing my hands, or I'm getting out of the way and let those nice germs just fly away somewhere else. And hopefully my body doesn't take on those germs. So honestly, no, I don't see any difference. I do have my limitations, and I am, I am fearful of certain things, but COVID is just like another primary immune deficiency that now everybody has it. Everybody's zeros in the world now.
Oh, that is so true, Jerry. All right, so a question for all of you. Do you have any really good stories of talking to family, friends, or even doctors who are like, but you don't look sick? Or like, what's wrong with you? You look fine. Do you have any particularly interesting tales to tell us? Pete, why don't we start with you?
Well, it brought up a story that's pretty similar. Before diagnosis, I could always sense this thing coming, with ear infections, and there was just a feeling that pneumonia was coming, which didn't feel good. And I knew to go to the doctor, and if I needed to get tested, they test me. So I had a general practitioner for the couple of years, the guy who finally recommended, with a blood test, I could go see a specialist. Anyway, before that, he was away on vacation or on a trip, and I got to go to his boss, the guy who was the medical senior guy at their practice. And I told him, a little bit about the history and what was going on, and that if he didn't prescribe antibiotics, I would get pneumonia. He was the most condescending son of a whatever you want to call it, and just laughed at me, literally. I mean, I was I was not happy. He was just so condescending. Anyway, he prescribed an asthma test, which I had not had. And I said, again, if you don't give me antibiotics, I'll get pneumonia. And I did get pneumonia. And I wanted to go march into his office. And the other doctor was back by then. He kind of calmed me down. But I'm sure we've all run into similar things trying to get a diagnosis.
Thank you, Pete. And you laugh about it now, but I'm sure in the moment it wasn't a funny or laughable experience for you.
Yes. Picture getting bashed in a rugby game. I was ready to.
Carissa or Jerry, do either of you have any fun or just interesting stories about people who said, well, you don't look sick?
honestly don't. I've heard a ton from other people. That makes me sad, but no, I personally don't.
Mhm.
Me either. I would say most of the time, I would say 98% of the time when I share my story, that's the response that I
Mhm.
receive. Well, you don't look sick.
Mhm.
Well, what does a sick person supposed to look like?
Yeah.
And then they look at me and they're like, well, I don't know. And I was like, I don't know either. So that's how we kind of leave it as that. And I was like, you know, if you can tell me what a sick person supposed to look like, then I guess we can move on. But I don't know what a sick person is supposed to look like, because again, you could be mentally sick and look just fine. You don't have to be losing a leg, or, you know, don't have a voice or have a bunch of bumps on your face or whatever. You can be internally sick and be okay on the surface level outside.
And
Jerry,
the way
I like
Jerry explained it, you know, you can almost take that as a compliment. You know, you can
Yeah.
spin that around to a positive. Well, thank you. I don't
Yeah.
look sick. I appreciate that.
We say,
Yeah.
well, you don't either.
Yeah, you could say like, I work really hard to not look sick. So thank you very much. All right, so we have another question from the audience. Someone is wondering what superpowers you feel you may have developed by living with PI, or saying that another way, what can you do thanks to your experience of being diagnosed and living with a PI that other people admire about you? Kind of a deep question.
Very deep.
I don't know. I'll let whomever has an answer at the ready go ahead and jump in.
I am told all the time my outlook on life and just positivity is, and I know it's because of the cards I was dealt. And I just feel like I don't have any other choice but to, this is what I was given, and so this is what I'm going to do. So yeah.
Love that,
That's my
Carissa.
superpower.
Love that. Peter, Jerry, any good superpowers?
My wife calls me Mr. Happy. She says it's disgusting. You're happy all the time.
That doesn't sound so bad either. These are all great compliments and great superpowers. Jerry, do you have anything? Any good superpowers?
I think it would have to be to piggyback off of Pete and Carissa. Same thing. I'm a pretty happy person most of the time. I have my days, but I really don't have a superpower other than kind of what I said earlier, is like really getting in tune with yourself. We all have superpowers. Yes, living with a PI, it does add a challenge, but I think that it makes you more powerful, that you can still live the day-to-day life and the expectations that everybody try to put on you to be this certain person. And it's so powerful when you're just yourself. You just genuinely just yourself, and you know yourself. That's your superpower. And that's for anybody outside with PI or with PI. Mm-hmm. And not letting people define who you are. Because if you do, then you will be lost. You will feel down. And it will make you sick. And then if you do put limitations on yourself or unexpectations of trying to live everybody else's expectations, you're living everybody else's life, and you don't have a life for your own. So I just try to, when I get into that space, some days I'm shut off from the world. Mm-hmm. And I spend time with myself and just circle back into like, okay, Jerry, who is Jerry Short? Because that's your superpower.
Jerry, I love that. All three of you, so inspiring. I do want to be mindful of time. We are almost up. So I have one more question for all of you, just to think about and to share with our community. For those that are maybe not yet diagnosed, struggling with a new diagnosis, struggling through those, early months of treatment and trying to get it figured out, or maybe just still nervous about sharing with others. What, from each of you, do you have any words of wisdom to share with others who are embarking on a PI journey? Krista, do you want to start?
So for those who aren't diagnosed yet, I'm sorry.
It can be for really anyone in the PI community who maybe is nervous to share their diagnosis, nervous how they might feel, be perceived. Maybe it's someone who's struggling to be diagnosed now and has no hope for, what life could be. Do you all have any words of wisdom for
I'll go.
me? You want to go, Jerry? Great.
I'll go.
He's got something brewing.
Of course he does. Go ahead, Jerry.
I was
Inspire us all.
for me, I would just say you have to have a conversation with yourself and ask yourself, like, why are you feeling the way you feel? And go through all those terrible emotions. Cry. It's okay to cry. It's okay to let those emotions out. Then circle back and figure out, okay, this is the cards that I'm dealt with. Now what I'm going to do with these cards. And then at that point, reach out to people like me, Carissa, Pete, find a support group, talk to people. That's the one thing that I've learned through this whole journey is that I was so, as growing up in Texas and as a man, you have to keep everything. You have to be strong. You have to, men don't cry. Men are strong and this and that. And men cry too. We have emotions. And I lean on my mom and I even lean on Carissa on certain things. I've had a lot of conversations with her. I would just say, lean on people that pour into you. And I was pouring into a lot of people that was not pouring into me. And I had to reevaluate my life, my circle of friends and family, even some family who we have the same blood. I have that they're not really family. I have some people that are family that is not even related to me. And most of those family is out of the PI group. Because I know I can call them and I know that I can get the support of a non-judgment zone.
That was great, Jerry.
Speaking from the heart.
Yeah, speak from the heart. Just let it flow.
I'd offer one thing. It's only one word, and then it's persistence.
Yes.
To me, whether it's sometimes working at a job, trying to get through school, raising a family, you run into difficulties. And, sometimes the easy thing is to walk away or just say, I give up. And I think persistence is the key to working through this. Rare diseases like immune deficiency can be extremely difficult to diagnose and treat. I think the keynote speaker in the first session was 20 years to diagnosis and very ill. And they found it. Now she's grinning and talking to people. So I'd say, find a good doctor, get a good diagnosis. If you need it, get good medicine, get good insurance. And the other thing is know that IDF is an extremely good resource for you in all those areas. And especially with the Get Connected groups, a source of hope and support.
Pete.
And for me, I would just say, the three main things is don't give up, never give up, stay positive. Like we talked about a second ago, there's definitely always something to stay positive, even if you feel like in the moment that there's not. And then, like they were both saying, get connected. And IDF really is a great resource. If you don't know how to get connected, reach out, because there's multiple different levels. And where, for me, like one way of getting connected might be the right thing for me. For someone else, it might be a different way. So there's multiple different ways through IDF on how you can do that, and check it out. There might be something that's a better resource for you. And like Jerry said, it's a different thing connecting with someone who actually gets it than it is, you know, a friend who doesn't have the same type thing. They just get it on a different level that you might not even realize exist. And it's like a deeper conversation. So don't ever feel lost and like you don't have anyone, because there are people out there who really can understand on a deeper level.
Thank you all. I think that ties it up just really well, just the sense of community and how important community is. I know the title of this session was Make Yourself Heard and sharing about your diagnosis with others, but it's also really about knowing yourself and being able to find your herd. And IDF certainly offers many great opportunities to do that through our Get Connected groups, through our peer support, through our events. I know we're virtual, but there's plenty of networking opportunities. So I hope that everybody who tuned in was able to kind of hear what Pete and Carissa and Jerry said about just knowing who you are, but also being able to find your people and being able to do so through IDF. So that is really the message of this panel. So I just want to say thank you to Pete and Carissa and Jerry for joining us today and being so candid and thoughtful and funny and honest about your journeys with PI, from childhood to adolescence into adulthood now. This has been really just a wonderful panel. So that's really all the time we have for today. Thank you again. We do have one more session today, 5 p.m. Eastern, or one more block of sessions, I should say, at 5 p.m. Eastern. There's also an award ceremony later tonight where we're honoring some really great IDF heroes. And then tomorrow there's 2 amazing keynote sessions about COVID-19 and what it means to be immunocompromised, as well as just a lot of great opportunities to connect with other people. So thank you again, Jerry, Pete, and Carissa, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And I will see you all next time, or see you in 8 minutes at the next session.
For having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey,
Take
thank you.
care. Bye.